The avoidant's emotional expression operates in inverse proportion to their internal experience. The moments when they appear most detached are often the moments when they feel most intensely. The coldness is not absence of emotion, but rather overwhelming presence of emotion they cannot process or express safely. This inverted response creates profound confusion for anyone trying to understand them through the lens of secure attachment, where feelings in their expression move in the same direction. But for the avoidant, the more they feel, the more desperately they need to create distance from those feelings, and that distance manifests as coldness toward the very person who inspired the emotion. Feelings trigger survival responses instead of connection. When the avoidant begins to feel deeply, their nervous system does not register this as the warmth of connection. It registers it as existential threat. Their brain, shaped by early experiences where emotional vulnerability led to pain, abandonment, or engulfment, interprets intense feelings as danger signals requiring immediate defensive action. The more they care about you, the more their attachment wound activates, screaming that caring this much means they will inevitably be hurt. So they respond to loving feelings with the same physiological response others might have to actual danger: fight, flight, or freeze. The coldness is their flight response. By becoming emotionally unavailable, by creating distance, by shutting down, they are attempting to escape from feelings that their nervous system has labeled as threats to their psychological survival. They are not choosing to be cold to hurt you. They are desperately trying to regulate an internal experience that feels unmanageable and terrifying. Emotional intensity threatens their sense of self. The avoidant has built their entire identity around independence and emotional self-sufficiency. They pride themselves on not needing anyone, on being able to function perfectly well alone, on maintaining control over their emotional state. But when they feel deeply about someone, this carefully constructed self-image begins to crack. They think about you when they should be focusing on other things. They miss you when you are absent. They feel vulnerable to your opinion and affected by your mood. This dependency, however normal in healthy relationships, feels like losing themselves to the avoidant. The intensity of feeling threatens to consume the independence they have used as armor against the world, so they become cold as a way to reassert their separateness, to prove to themselves that they are still autonomous, that they have not become the needy, dependent person they fear becoming. The coldness is an attempt to restore psychological boundaries that intense feelings have dissolved. They cannot distinguish between feeling and drowning. For the avoidant, there is no middle ground between feeling nothing and feeling everything. They have not developed the capacity to experience moderate emotion or to regulate intensity in healthy ways. When feelings start to emerge, they quickly escalate from manageable to overwhelming. What begins as affection spirals into what feels like obsession. What starts as missing someone becomes unbearable longing. What should be comfortable attachment feels like desperate dependency. The avoidant cannot modulate these feelings because their nervous system lacks the regulatory capacity that secure attachment provides. So they experience even normal levels of emotional connection as flooding, as drowning, as losing all control. The coldness is their attempt to get air, to create space between themselves and the emotional intensity that feels like it will consume them entirely. They are not being cold because they do not feel. They are being cold because they feel so much that shutting down completely is the only way they know to survive it. Expression feels like handing you a weapon. The avoidant understands on some level that if they show you how much they feel, they are giving you power to hurt them. Every expression of care is a vulnerability that could be exploited. Every admission of need is an opportunity for rejection. Every moment of emotional honesty is a chance for you to realize how much power you have and use it to abandon or control them. This fear is rooted in their early experiences, where showing emotion led to pain, where vulnerability was met with dismissal or used against them. So they protect themselves by concealing what they feel behind coldness. If you cannot see how much they care, you cannot use that caring to hurt them. If they appear indifferent, you have no leverage, no ability to devastate them. The coldness is armor. It is self-protection. It is the wall they build between their internal emotional reality and the external world. They cannot trust not to weaponize their feelings. The desperate hope you will see through it. The cruel irony is that the avoidant often wants you to see through the coldness. They hope you will recognize that their distance is fear rather than disinterest, that their shutdown is overwhelm rather than indifference. They want you to understand them without them having to explain, because explaining would require the vulnerability they are trying to avoid. So they act cold, while secretly hoping you are perceptive enough to realize the coldness is evidence of how much they actually feel. But this hope is usually disappointed, because most people reasonably interpret coldness as lack of caring, rather than as inverted expression of intense emotion. The avoidant ends up alone with their feelings, misunderstood and isolated, having pushed away the person they cared about most through the very defenses meant to protect that caring. They feel the most and act the coldest, and the gap between internal experience and external presentation becomes the mechanism through which they destroy what matters most to them.